The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Welcome back to the show that refuses to look away from the wreckage of the modern world. It is Wednesday, February 25th, 2026, and honestly, I'm looking at the news cycle today, and I'm thinking maybe there is some sanity left in the water supply somewhere.
Don't hold your breath, Diane. You'll be turning blue before you find a drop of that in D.C. But you're right, it's a solid lineup today. We've got some developments that actually feel like the adults might be stepping back into the room for once.
Oh, please, we can hope, right? But before we get into the meat of it, can we just acknowledge how right we were yesterday about Gavin Newsom, that little book tour of his, The Young Man in a Hurry memoir? Honey, no, the only thing he's in a hurry for is to find a mirror that doesn't tell him he's failing California.
Exactly. And let's not even get started on Robert De Niro's latest emotional breakdown we covered. Honestly, life is hard, Robert. Get a helmet and stop crying into your expensive gin. But today we actually have some news that doesn't involve Hollywood elites weeping on podcasts. It's a busy show, a really fascinating mix of real world wins and high stakes legal battles.
It is, and I want to start with a reality check that is going to make the Made in China crowd absolutely lose their minds. Apple, yes, that Apple, just announced they are doubling down in Houston, Texas. They're taking over 500,000 square feet, and here is the kicker. They're moving Mac Mini production from Asia to the United States.
Wait, stop. Did you say the Mac Mini? That's not just a minor accessory. That's a core piece of hardware.
It's the logic boards, the servers, the whole 9 yards. They're scaling up advanced AI servers right there in Texas. And let's be real about why this is happening. It isn't because Tim Cook suddenly decided he loves the smell of Houston humidity. It's the tariffs. According to the Apple newsroom and the Houston Chronicle, those 10 to 25% tariffs on overseas electronics are finally making it too expensive to be a globalist.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the get a helmet approach to trade policy. If you want to sell to Americans, you need to build with Americans. And it's not just the assembly line, Diane. They're launching an advanced manufacturing center for training. 20,000 square feet just for hands-on skills for students.
Right? It's what I've been saying. If you give real Americans the tools, they will outbuild the rest of the world every single day of the week. But it's a strategic move too. We saw that report from the New York Times yesterday talking about the looming disaster of our dependency on Taiwan.
Oh, the chip dependency? That's the Achilles heel of the entire tech sector. And it's about time someone in Silicon Valley realized that relying on a small island that China is eyeing like a snack, well, it's not a great long-term business plan.
A snack. You're terrible. But you're right. We're talking about thousands of jobs in Houston. $600 billion in U.S. investment over 4 years. This is what happens when you prioritize domestic reliability over global dependency. It's common sense.
It's also about time we saw some individual heroism in the face of all this institutional rot we usually talk about. Did you see what happened in Phoenix?
The moving crew?
Yes! Camelback Moving. Talk about a name that fits. These guys, 8 of them, on a coffee break, spotted a woman with a 3-year-old who had been the subject of an Amber Alert. Kaylani Rogers.
Oh, I saw that. Little Kaylani had been missing since Saturday.
Right? And the suspect, Marina Noriega, just walks into a Quick Trip gas station like nothing is wrong. But these moving crews, Ralph Volmart and Kevin Place, they didn't wait for a committee meeting or a social worker to assess the situation.
Honey, they used their 30-foot moving trucks to box her car in.
They literally barricaded her. Ralph said it best. Their trucks are 30 feet long. Once they parked those babies, there was nowhere for her to go. They held her for 90 seconds until the police arrived.
90 seconds. That's the difference between a child being found and a tragedy. And what I love about this story, they had actually taken truckers against trafficking training.
See?
That's the point. It's individual responsibility. They didn't outsource their conscience to the state. They saw a problem, they had the training, and they used the tools they had, which happened to be massive trucks, to save a life. That is the American spirit right there. It is. But then you look at the elites and the surveillance state, and you realize why people are so frustrated. Because while moving crews are saving kids, the FBI is busy searching your data without a warrant.
Here we go again. FISA Section 702.
Exactly. But there's a glimmer of hope. Senators Mike Lee and Dick Durbin, an odd couple if I've ever seen one, just introduced the SAFE Act. They want to reauthorize 702, but only, and I mean only, if the government is forced to get a warrant before they start snooping through the data of American citizens.
Is it actually going to happen this time? Because they've been talking about this loophole for years, the backdoor search, where they incidentally collect American info while looking at foreigners.
Well, the deadline is April 20th, and according to Senator Durbin's office, the FBI did over 200,000 of these warrantless searches in a single year. That's 500 a day, Ashley.
500 a day. That's not incidental. That's a workflow. That's a standard operating procedure for a surveillance state.
It is. And when Senator John Cornyn grilled the FBI and NSA officials in a classified hearing earlier this month, they wouldn't even say if the White House supports a warrant requirement. They just sat there and stared at him.
Of course they did. They don't want to give up the keys to the castle. But this SAFE Act, it would also limit the government's ability to just buy our data from brokers.
Oh, please. They've been doing that for years to get around the Fourth Amendment. Oh, we didn't search your phone. We just bought the GPS data from a third party. Honey, that's a distinction without a difference.
Exactly. It's a violation of the spirit of the law, even if they argue the letter. But before we dive into the culture war and this massive Supreme Court case coming up, we need to take a quick break and talk about why we're even here. Real independence isn't free. This entire network, from this show to our flagship, the Neural Daily, exists because one man, Eric Christensen, decided to build it himself. He didn't ask for a government grant. He invested his own capital and technical expertise to architect a media platform that respects your intelligence. If you value that kind of meritocratic building, back it up. And don't limit yourself to just the politics. Get the full strategic picture by subscribing to the Neural Daily and the rest of the network. Support the builder, and you support the mission.
Support the mission, people, because if you don't, the only thing you'll have left is the Washington Post. And have you seen the layoffs over there? It's a bloodbath at the Post. They're moving away from their identity-driven models because, surprise, surprise, nobody wants to pay for a lecture every morning.
It's the victimhood industrial complex failing in real time. But speaking of things that are actually dangerous, can we talk about these social media warning labels?
Oh, you mean the tobacco-style warnings for your iPhone?
Yes. New York, California, Minnesota, they're all moving toward these black box warnings. If you're a minor, the platform has to show a warning for 10 seconds before you can get to the infinite scroll.
Look, I'm the first person to say get a helmet, but when it comes to kids and these algorithms, it's not a fair fight. These tech companies have spent billions making these apps as addictive as slot machines.
They have, and the data is terrifying. According to the current legislation being debated, adolescents spending over 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of anxiety and depression.
Double?
Double. And the Kids Online Safety Act, KOSA, it's moving through Congress with this duty of care provision. It basically says, hey, TikTok, if you know your app is pushing eating disorder content to 13-year-olds, you're liable.
Imagine that. Accountability for the products you sell. What a concept. But it's not just the tech. It's the schools, too. Did you see that $1.5 million settlement in Maryland?
Over parenting rights?
Yes. A school district tried to hide gender transition plans from parents, and the court basically said, no, you don't own these children. Their parents do.
Finally, a little common sense in the classroom. I am so tired of these school boards acting like parents are an inconvenience to their radicalization projects.
It's the same thing happening in Louisiana. Governor Landry is pushing for a full probe into ideological capture in the universities. They want to know why taxpayers are funding DEI offices that spend all day telling students that America is inherently evil.
It's a house cleaning, Ashley. And it's long overdue, just like the house cleaning that needs to happen in the Florida Everglades. Have you seen those fire reports?
The national fire in Big Cypress?
25,000 acres, and it is 0% contained as of this morning. The smoke is so thick, it's trapping near the ground. They've had to shut down parts of Alligator Alley.
Well, they're in a 25-year drought. That's what Dr. Ludi Bond from the Forest Service is saying. A 13-inch rainfall deficit over the last year.
13 inches? Honey, that's not just a dry spell, that's a crisis. And yet you have the ingrates in the environmental movement who fight every attempt at defensive burns because they're worried about the carbon footprint, and then the whole preserve goes up in flames.
It's the save the trees by letting them burn strategy. Pure brilliance. But look, nature doesn't care about your policy papers. Whether it's the Everglades burning or that earthquake that rattled Seattle this morning, reality always wins in the end.
It does, and that brings us to the biggest reality check of all, the story that is going to define the next decade of American politics.
You're talking about Trump versus Barbara.
I am. The Supreme Court has officially set April 1st for oral arguments on Executive Order 14160, better known as the challenge to birth citizenship.
April Fool's Day. How fitting for a case that's going to make half the country lose their minds. But let's be real. This is the legal fight of the century. It really is. The administration is arguing that the 14th Amendment's jurisdiction clause has been misinterpreted for decades. They're saying it was meant for the children of formerly enslaved persons, people who owed their primary allegiance to the United States, not for the children of people who are in the country illegally. Right, and the opposition is already out in force. The Pasadena City Council just voted unanimously to join a legal challenge against the order. They're calling it unconstitutional and hateful. Oh, give me a break. Pasadena? Since when is the local city council the final arbiter of constitutional law?
In their own minds, Diane. They're the center of the universe. But the legal argument here is fascinating. You have the Barbara class, the plaintiffs, saying that born in the U.S. means you're a citizen, period, full stop. But that's not what the 14th Amendment actually says. It says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Those last 5 words are the whole ballgame. Well, that's the point. The administration's lawyers are going to argue that jurisdiction isn't just a geographical marker, it's a political one. If your parents are citizens of another country and they're here illegally, are you truly under the exclusive jurisdiction of the United States? Exactly. If you can be deported or if your parents owe taxes and military service to another nation, you aren't fully under our jurisdiction. It's common sense. We are one of the only countries in the world that still does this. It's a giant magnet for illegal immigration. It is. Most of Europe ended this decades ago, and look at the cost. According to a recent House budget report, the fiscal burden on cities like New York and Chicago, it's billions of dollars. We're talking about schools, hospitals, emergency services, all being crushed under the weight of people who arrived yesterday. And the elites want to tell us that questioning this is fringe. Honey, no. What's fringe is having a border that doesn't exist and a citizenship that is handed out like a participation trophy. A participation trophy for being born on the right side of a line. I love it. But let's look at the other side. The legal experts who say this is settled law. They point to United States versus Wong Kim Ark from back in 1898. Oh, please, Wong Kim Ark's parents were legal residents. They weren't here in violation of the law. You can't use a case about legal residents to justify citizenship for people who broke the law to get here. That's the get a helmet argument right there. You shouldn't be able to benefit from a legal protection by starting with a legal violation. It's a paradox.
It is, and the Supreme Court knows it. This is why the administration is pushing so hard. They want a definitive ruling that sovereignty actually means something. Because if anyone who walks across the Rio Grande can produce a U.S. citizen in 9 months, then the border is just a suggestion.
Well, and it's not just the legal side, it's the cultural side. You look at Pastor Corey Brooks, the rooftop pastor. He just finished this 2,300-mile walk across America.
From Kenton, Tennessee,
my neck of the woods.
I knew you'd love that. But he started in Times Square and he's walking to LA. And he says that the people he meets in the quiet acres of the country, they aren't nearly as divided as the media says.
Because real Americans know what's at stake. They know that if we don't protect our citizenship, we don't have a country. Pastor Brooks is out there talking about faith, family, and neighborly love, while the Pasadena City Council is busy filing lawsuits to protect a loophole.
It's the two Americas, Diane. One that wants to build and protect, and one that wants to deconstruct and apologize.
Well, I'm done apologizing, and I think the American people are too. That's why Apple is moving to Houston. That's why movers in Phoenix are taking matters into their own hands. And that's why this Supreme Court case is so crucial.
It's about returning to a merit-based, sovereignty-first reality. And honestly, it's about time. If 2026 is the year we finally decide that words have meanings and borders have purpose, then maybe there's hope for the next 250 years.
Amen to that. I'll drink to that. My glass is empty, but my spirit is full. It's time for a reality check, people. The world is crazy, but common sense is making a comeback.
It's a long road back, but we're taking it one step at a time.
Just like Pastor Brooks.
Exactly. Build it, protect it, and for heaven's sake, get a helmet because April 1st is going to be a wild ride. We'll be right here to cover the fallout. You bet we will. That's our show for today.
Stay focused, stay patriotic, and don't let them erase